Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. I'm the host today, Cesky, and I have with me the Soulution,
Hey everyone.
and I also have Eridandus with us today.
Hey there.
Hey, today we are going to be talking about the fourth book in the Cradle Series, Skysworn. And just to give everybody a little bit of a summary to remind us what's happened, our main character is Weishi Linden, and he grew up in Sacred Valley as a weak, unsold individual. He, due to fortuitous circumstances, he has now left Sacred Valley, joined up with a sword user, a swordsman, Yaren, and along their path they met Ethan, joined his family, and now Linden cultivates two paths, the pure path and the Black Flame path. He's grown from being an unsold individual to the low gold level and was arrested at the end of the last book for using the Black Flame path. Do you guys have a very fast and good summary there?
Yeah, I think so.
Great. So let's start off with this book. Let's just kind of go through it. That our first start of the scenes is Linden in prison because he pursues the path of the Black Flame, which has been forbidden because it is a path of death and destruction, and they go crazy and kill everybody, right?
Yeah, those previous rulers.
Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts about that? I mean, just the prison scenes where Ethan keeps breaking into prison to meet with him.
I love those scenes. I think it's really funny that Renfei and Bairu always see Ethan gets in no matter what. Doesn't matter where they place him, he always just finds a way in.
I mean, yeah, I think it was meant humorously, like kind of like to add an element of humor. Like, Ethan's really powerful, but, just kind of, he has a devil-may-care attitude. And that's kind of emphasized with this. Like, I'm not going to pay attention to your stinking blocks,
Yeah. I almost think that it would have been easier for them if they'd have just kept him in a room and said, hey, don't leave. Ethan never brought him out of jail. He never tried to get him out or trick his way out. He always just, wanted to keep him training and keep him focused on his goal. So, could have saved a couple bucks if they'd just put him in a room somewhere and, easier access to everybody. So let's see what happens after that. There is the combat between Jai Long and Weishi Linden. That's the next kind of thing that happens in the book. Did you guys enjoy that combat? Did everything play out kind of how you thought?
I think, it was a surprise to me when he lost his arm. I didn't see that coming the first time, and that surprised me. Definitely.
Is this probably going to say I called it? I mean, because we knew from the last couple books that there had to be another way out, right?
Yeah.
Because based on the predictions that he was going to die or die or die or die. So something had to happen where he survived, but something happened. So I kind of felt like, the way the battle ended was fine. I appreciate the fact that Linden was not allowed to cheat, even though he tried his darndest to cheat.
Yes.
I mean, he really, really, really went out of his way to try and cheat his way out of it. But he couldn't get out of it, and and I think a little bit of losing the arm was a little bit of his comeuppance for always trying to find a shortcut, and hopefully he would have learned something from it, though I doubt it.
Okay, we're going to get into whether this is cheating or not. We're going to try and put this to bed at this episode, but not now. But I did enjoy the fights. I enjoyed, him losing his arm. It was good. You can't really kill off your main character 4 out of 8 books into the series. I mean, you can.
You can.
But
it's been done.
That's a different type of book than what we're reading. That is not our fantasy popcorn book. So after the combat, what happened, Soul? Why don't you tell us? I don't remember very well.
Okay, so, and I apologize because then I read the next 2 books after this one because they were really excited. I just kept going. So after we got the combat of the battle, we have the Red Moon Hall is coming in, and we have Yiren and Cassius are in they're in the cloud ship. They're coming to see Linden and Ethan after the duel, and stuff goes down with Red Moon Hall. And we finally get to see some more Ethan. We get to see Yiren and her Blood Shadow. It has some complications now that is entered into this entire book. That's part of the theme.
Yes, and congratulations, Eridandus. You picked out that it was the shawl and that it was something to do with blood.
He did call
from
it.
book one. You
gotta give him
nailed it right
props.
on the head.
Well,
So
thank you. I take no credit for it. It's just years and years of reading these kinds of books.
Yeah.
It was very Elric Monobone. So
good. That's one on my list to pick up sometime as well. So yes, we learned a little bit more about Red Moon Hall and the Blood Shadows, and that a dread god has woken up or started to wake up.
Yeah.
And that spells disaster for everyone. I remember the first time I was reading about it and just the sheer power of the dread god that, you can't kill a dread god. The monarchs can fight them and kind of push them back, but there's no stopping them. And they have all these blood shadows or the blood swarms that come. If you bleed in a certain area, it will come and try and kill you. If you are in its shadow, it can create the blood shadows and they'll kill everybody. I mean, what were your initial reactions to that Era and then Soul?
So, I'll tell you the part that I did like was the way the magic worked, because usually in these types of scenarios, you see somebody dies and then their body becomes a zombie, and then it's kind of like that the bad guys' ranks keep on swelling because the more people they kill. So I kind of like the twist on it that it's actually droplets of blood, so it makes them exponentially more powerful. So I like that twist. That was kind of so I certainly like that. And I guess a criticism I have is that the scaling up goes really, really, really fast. Like you go from, we spent a book talking about an empire, which is a huge scale, like a logarithmic scale up from him being in the Desolate Wilds, which is a logarithmic scale up from Sacred Valley. And now we're talking about worldwide earth-shattering threats, and we learn all these different levels. It kind of came at you fast, I guess is the thing I'd say.
No, I think that's a very fair complaint / criticism that, our world building just keeps growing exponentially. Sacred Valley, then the ruins, then the empire, and now the bigger empire. And this empire is just like a subsection of like the real empire. And like our empire could be given to somebody else in a heartbeat just because, and we, it is a huge scale. Soulution, what did you feel about the power ramping or, the dread gods in general there?
I definitely like that Red Moon Hall has a different, unique style than others. They use their blood shadows as almost like a duplicate of themselves. So every fight is now a 2-on-1, which is definitely interesting. But as far as the power ramping goes, I know Will has admitted that he is bad with numbers, and he planned Cradle to be about 600 times the size of Earth. So this is a huge planet, and I know he's trying to get through all those, so it definitely seems like he kind of pushes it a little too fast. Like we didn't get any hints of Akura before the Skysworn, sorry. And I think it kind of shows that maybe we could have done with some more hints, a little more foreshadowing, and maybe prolong a little bit, but I know he's trying to get to certain areas of the book faster and or certain areas of the story. So
yeah, that's good. And I did like in this scene that we see, in these scenes that we see that Ethan, who's been untouchable up till now, we see that we're actually fighting people on his level, or, he is at least fighting people on his level. He fights with the emissary of the Blood Moon and pulls it to a draw, but more of a loss than a draw. And is able to get away because the Empire shows up and pushes it back. And that was good to see. I think that really showed that, like, hey, we've got a ways to go. And I think we all knew that, but it was good seeing him be wounded. I felt like it really put something out there for us. While Ethan is doing some fighting and some other stuff, Lyndon and Yaren, well, Lyndon especially, is in jail still, basically. And Yaren is training, but because of her connection with the Blood Shadow, she wants to get out there and fight. I have to stop this. I know how bad it can get. Her wanting to join the Skysworn, did you guys feel like that was a reasonable response? Was it a bad response? Was it just too impatient of Yaren? How did you guys feel about it? I kind of felt like it was way too impatient. Like, she's like, oh, I got to get out there and fight. But it's like, yeah, but if you go out there and fight and you just die, then that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't really solve the problem. If you stayed back and grew stronger and helped out in other ways, then maybe you can be more effective than just going out there and fighting. Era, what do you think?
So I agree with your point, but I would say in the context of what we know about her character, her impatience is justified because she's got a grudge to settle with these blood shadows, given what's happened in her past. So I understand the impatience on her end, and kind of the Skysworn's response to her is also, it makes sense in the context of where they're in. So kind of I get that. And I would say, and Lyndon's response to Yeren is also rational in the context of where he's in. He's got to make a choice, and so he chose to be with his friend. While that may not have been a choice that everybody would have made, it makes sense in the context of where he's at. But the way the Skysworn reacted to Lyndon is irrational. So kind of like, I think everybody was rational except for that last part, which they turn more into Sky Nazis than Skysworn to me. So like, but we can talk about that later. So.
Okay, we'll come back to the Skysworn as Sky Nazis. So how did you feel about Ethan and Lyndon, or not Ethan and Lyndon, but Yeren and Lyndon, and joining the Skysworn?
Pretty much the same. Era summed it up quite astutely. I think those were my thoughts as well.
Okay. Obviously, they are able to join after completing, in my opinion, a poorly picked out trial for everyone. And they are basically the last picked. Nobody wants them, along with Akura Mercy. And we know why they don't want Lyndon, because nobody trusts a Black Flame. That is their boogeyman. Oh, be good at night, or the Black Flame will come and kill you. And nobody trusts Yeren because she has a blood shadow. And we don't know why nobody really likes Akura, aside from the fact that her family is insanely powerful. But they are the last picked group, basically a consolation prize. Oh, yeah, you're part of the army, but you're not really part of the group. And they basically send them off to die, and they're left on their own. And they get in a fight. Oh, sorry, what?
Can I say something? Was it your impression that nobody wanted them? Because that's not the impression I got. The impression I got was that there were orders from on high. Nobody picked them. Save them for last. I'll take care of them. That was the impression I got.
Yeah, it was. They were under the orders to make this almost a suicide squad, where they were not picked by anybody else. They were just, if something happens in a volatile mission, good. That's what we want. Either they all go home or they complete a successful mission for us.
Well, yeah, I guess the way I took it was that the head guy in charge, Naru, was like, nobody picked them. They're going to be their own special squad. I don't want them to actually be an effective squad. I want them to be the ones I send in on the suicide mission. If they die, that's better for me. If they come back, hey, at least they'll have solved a problem. If they go home or they stay under arrest, that's even better. So I just got the impression that they were looked down on, even though they're quite powerful. Yes. And, not utilized well. And then, of course, we have our lovely space doctor performs for us as well in this book. We get to see a lot of that. But that is basically where our story ends off, is that they've been picked, they've been sent out on a mission, basically completed their mission, and we end with maybe the Skysworn will come after them again, and maybe they'll go back, and maybe they won't. So out of those, out of this book, what was one of your favorite scenes? Or least favorite, if that's what you have?
Cool.
I think my favorite scene is when Lyndon is finally facing someone that's his own advancement level. Just an average low gold on his way to the trial that they're doing, this little race thing. And he punches this kid who's kind of picking a fight. And he's already planning his next move, what he's going to do to take this guy out. And then he realized that first punch was all he needed. And Ethan has created a monster. And that's it. It was interesting to see. And then Orthos is giggling in his own way, just laughing about, rolling around, and eating the kid's shield. And it was definitely a funny moment. And it was nice to see a small change where he's beating up someone on his own level.
Era?
So before I tell you my favorite scene, I want you to Google Conan, what is best in life? Okay? Take 20 seconds. I'll wait for you to finish. So what you've seen is Conan the Barbarian, where he's asked what is best in life. It's actually a transliterated. Let me try that again. Transliterated quote from Genghis Khan. What is best in life? To drive your enemies before you, to crush them, and to hear the lamentations of their women. Which is pretty much what Orthos tells Lyndon before he goes out to fight Jailong. I found that hilarious. It was funny. It was kind of a meta point. I'm like, good for you. Like, kind of sneaking that joke in. So I like that.
Great. One of my favorite scenes is near the beginning when Jai Sho, the leader of the Stellar Spear Path, he's mad because he died and he had to come back, and he says, I'm going to do whatever it takes to kill Ethan. And so he goes to the remnant raven of death and he offers a sacrifice. And he's like, all right, who do you want to kill? And he's like, oh, kill Ethan. And the raven's like, oh, pick anybody but him. He's our friend. We like Ethan. He's cool. And he's like, what? Like, you said anybody, like anybody but him? And then he's like, okay, that's fine. I'll go to the Past of Last Breath. These are mercenary suicide squatters. They take the jobs that nobody will take. And they're like, oh, you want us to kill Ethan? No, sorry, we won't do that. Like, we take dangerous missions, but we don't take missions where we have a 0% chance of success. And he's like, this is annoying. And so he's like, okay, I'll go to the Deepwalker Ape. I'll get there. I spent all this money to figure out where it is and tricked people to get to it. And he gets there, and Ethan's already been there and released it with a sign that says, better luck next time, basically. Like, you can't pull one over on me. Just made me laugh so much. Just, everything he tries, Ethan's already figured out. Ethan's 3 steps ahead and planning it all. And that leads me to one of my thoughts was Ethan wrong for letting it get as far as it got with Jai Sho, where he knew that Jai Sho would go into the labyrinth, which is dangerous, and pull an artifact from there and then use it. Should he have shut it down earlier? Should he have tried to stop him earlier? What are your guys' thoughts? Soul, why don't you go first?
I think I'll actually probably be closer to Era's opinion on this one. He probably shouldn't have let it get this far, since he definitely knew Dread Gods were a possibility, and that's a serious thing. That we know his training methods are trial by fire, and the more dangerous the better. But when it's involving something that monarchs can't even kill, it's probably a better idea to find a different path to train your disciples. So that's just my opinion on that one.
Mm-hmm. And Era, how do you feel about it?
So I guess it depends on whose morality we're looking at. Under Ethan's morality, this is a sane decision, because the percentage chance that a Dread God would appear versus exposing Jai Shu and getting one up on him, the balance is in his favor. So according to Ethan's morality, this is perfectly justified and rational, under his analysis. And really, it kind of depends. I don't view this necessarily as a moral decision so much as a risk benefit analysis. Like, the chances of a Dread God actually appearing are really, really, really low, right? So I think where Ethan miscalculates, and we see this a lot in this book, is that he miscalculates how far people are willing to go. He miscalculates other people's abilities. He's a bit too sure in his own decisions and his own knowledge, and it ends up starting to bite him in the butt a little bit. So I think that's what we're seeing more here than anything else.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I fall kind of a little bit on both sides. Like, yes, he did this because he knew that Jai Sho would incriminate himself and permanently remove himself from the board by going into the labyrinth, which has been forbidden. But on the other hand, could he have maybe not provoked him as much, or, maybe done it at a different time? I don't know. I think maybe he could have provoked him a little less, just removing those obstacles that he could have, those opportunities that Jai Sho could have used to attack him without taunting him at the same time. But, I just don't know. In the combat, which is kind of the same scene as where Jai Sho loses it, how did you feel about Narugui kind of using his position to forcibly ensure that Ethan loses? Not loses the fight, because that's kind of been decided, but, Ethan surrenders, Lyndon surrenders, but Narugui says, no, it's first to the death or incapacitation. I'm not willing to bend on this. I'm not willing to let you have your way. Did that strike you as, it kind of strikes you as natural? Like, obviously he doesn't like him, but how'd you feel about that scene? Era?
Well, because he's a Sky Nazi. He's the leader of the Sky Nazis. So he will let his emotion and his bigotry and his racism or discrimination. That's probably the better word. He will let his discrimination take its natural course because his discrimination is the actual and proper view in life. Had it not been Ethan, had the positions been reversed, I am 110% sure that Naru would have called it. He didn't call it because he thinks Ethan's a lesser person, a lesser being. He does not care for his Madra. He does not care for his bloodline. He holds them in contempt. I think he's supposed to be seen as kind of cool, but I think he ends up being kind of creepy evil. So that's why I think he's doing what he's doing.
I have to agree on the creepy evil / more antagonistic side of the coin than the good side of the coin. Soulution, how do you feel about that scene? Same as Era?
100%. Sky Nazis are terrible, and they're really annoying, and they infuriate me when they're on the page, and I got to see this stuff happen to our main characters that we grow to, or at least I grow to love. And it's really irritating.
All right, well...
Let me clarify one thing. I don't mind so much that he's an antagonist. That's fine with me. What bothers me is his reasons for doing so. They're irrational. They're based on stereotypical discriminatory things that he views A is superior to B, therefore I am right. That's what I have the problem with, and it's not developed. If that were also developed, so we kind of had some backstory as to why he is that way, or why this is justified in his mind, then it might be better. But it's kind of thrown at you, kind of as a conclusory, something you're just supposed to conclude, and that's what I have the problem with.
Okay, I totally accept that. So we've talked about the Sky Nazis twice now. The Skysworn as Sky Nazis. You say it's because they believe that A is just straight up superior to B, and that makes them that. What led you to believe this? What is it that you're seeing that makes you call them Sky Nazis? Because the first time I read it, I never really saw them as Sky Nazis. I didn't like them, and I didn't agree with their plans or their philosophies. But what do you just explain it to me a little bit?
Sure. They will ensure peace and prosperity of the individuals who fall under their purview at the expense of any other being that they consider lesser. So, for example, Yeren, they're kind of on board with, not really. And then when they find out that she's attached to a blood shadow, okay, I'll give them that one. That's justified in the context of what's going on. And then Ethan, basically, they don't like him because of his clan. Period. Full stop. That's the only reason they don't like him. Excuse me. That's it. They have no other justification for it. And then Lyndon, the only thing they know about Lyndon is that he has started the path of the Black Flame. They know that he's young and inexperienced, and that he's on the path of Black Flame. So their choice is, let's go ahead and murder the young kid instead of learning more about him, getting to know him. No, let's go straight to murder. Okay? So to me, that puts them in the Nazi camp.
Great. Yeah. Guilty before innocent, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. No, that is totally fair. Soulution, did you have something you wanted to bring up?
Not anymore of the Sky Nazis. I'm okay. I think we covered that enough.
That's totally fine. I just wanted to bring up that Orthos, as I was reading all of his lines in this book, he is so wise. It's almost subtle how wise he is. Now, I don't remember exactly what I was reading when I wrote that, but the things that he says to Lyndon are they're so impactful and important. And yes, like that one scene you said earlier with the Conan where he's like, the best thing is to drive your enemies before you, crush them, be powerful. And that's something that Lyndon's always struggled with, is that confidence in these series. He's getting better, right? But a couple times he's like, just do it. Pick a decision and stick with it. You are a dragon. Be a dragon. Do it. And if you read it and you really think about what he's saying, he actually makes more sense and has more wisdom than you think. Because in the beginning he's crazy, and now he's less crazy. So
no, I agree with that. And I want to make another point about Orthos that the author does that I do like. For example, he's always eating these strange things. He's always eating gravel or shields, whatever. And I honestly think, like I was telling Soul before, I can't get out of my head once I heard the Conan quote. He's speaking with this Austrian Germanic, rocks in his mouth type of accent. But but you're right. Orthos is somebody who is secure in his power, secure in his ability, And I think that's what he's communicating to Lyndon. Like, you are better than you think you are. Just quit, like, being inside your own head, I guess. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Soul?
No, I definitely think so. That's one of the dipping your toe into the level 3 stuff that we're just finally getting just a tiny bit of stuff that'll come in later. But that's like one of the start of those things with Orthos. Is a unique relationship with Lyndon.
Okay, great. All right. I think it's time to get into it with you guys. What is cheating? And
I'll let you guys go first.
Thank you. As our resident lawyer, I'm glad that you're willing to give us, a little bit of an edge so we don't just get demolished and demoralized quickly. I wanted to just talk really quick, read the definition. Cheating, to act dishonestly or unfairly in order to gain an advantage, especially in a game or examination, or to avoid something undesirable, usually by luck or skill, right? To cheat at Monopoly, I steal money, I give myself properties I didn't earn, or like I cheated death by stepping to the side at that 1 second and the bus missed me, right? Now, in my opinion, Lyndon doesn't cheat. Everything he does is within all the rules that they are given. He doesn't, he tries to bring weapons in with him, but he doesn't really fight them when they take the weapons from the fight with him, right? He's not like, oh, well, I hoped I could have gotten that one in, but I didn't. He trains and he works. Now, maybe you can agree that he's taking shortcuts to power. He contracted with Orthos as a shortcut versus putting all the work in to cycle the correct Madra and take time. But cheating would imply, that he did something that was unfair. Well, I think it's unfair to fight someone 3 times your level. Basically, if it was me versus a MMA professional, like, can I honestly cheat and not expect to still lose? I mean, I guess if I brought a gun, that would be cheating. But since I wouldn't, I just don't see him as cheating in anything. He doesn't cheat in the trial to get into the Skysworn. He rides Orthos, but that's allowed. Nobody calls him out on it and says, hey, that's cheating. So I guess in my mind, I would argue that he does take some shortcuts. His path to power has been incredibly quick comparatively, but full-on cheating, no. I don't have anything else, but I'll answer any questions you might have. And if you sway me, then you sway me.
Soul, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, he covered it pretty good. I also have a helicopter right above me, so I think now is when Era can demoralize us by using his lawyer talk and just making sure we know that Lyndon's a cheater.
Let's. Are we ready? Can we start?
Okay. You have the floor.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take your definition of cheating. Okay, so first of all, just like you can still get prosecuted for attempted murder, like murder, you get prosecuted for attempted murder as if it's murder. Attempted cheating is still cheating. Okay, so the fact that he didn't get away with it doesn't excuse the fact that he was trying to cheat. But let's go ahead, let's set that aside. Let's just use your definitions, okay? And I'm gonna pick a sentence from the book, okay? And let's see if we can all agree as to what definition of cheating this is, okay? Here, this is Lyndon talking about his fight with Jai Long. In that case, the Skysworn wouldn't have checked the surroundings for traps. Lyndon could have cheated to his heart's content. Do we agree that that form of cheating falls in your first definition?
Yeah.
That putting traps around the area first would have been a cheating?
Yes, that would have been the first definition of cheating that you provided to us, correct?
I would agree that putting traps in the arena would have been a cheat.
Okay, now let's see whether this is another excerpt from Skysworn. Let's see if we can all agree that this is the second definition you gave of cheating, okay? It had been an entire year since he stood at the peak of the transcendent ruins. That didn't feel real. Where had the time gone? It couldn't have been a year. He felt cheated. Do we agree that that falls under your second definition of cheated? In other words, it's like, he felt like, the time got away from him. He wasn't trying to actively perform an act of cheating. It felt like he got away from him.
Yeah, the second definition. Yeah, the second definition of cheating is not really like actually cheating, just the turn of phrase it is. But yes, I would agree that one, the time got away from him. He felt cheated, like I didn't have enough time to prepare. Yes.
So we both agree. So we agree with those two definitions, right? So this is the third sentence I'm going to use. It's from Skysworn. Okay, let's see if we can agree what definition this is. Okay, this is Lyndon thinking to himself. He wasn't going to get out of this. This meaning the fight with Jailong. He couldn't cheat. He couldn't catch Jailong off guard again. Ithan couldn't save him. Lyndon was on his own. He was walking out of this killed or crippled.
Yes.
What definition of cheating is Lyndon thinking to himself? Is it the first definition or the second definition?
It's the first definition.
It's the first definition, okay?
Oh,
he is trying to cheat. No, you said you let me finish.
I know, that's why I raised my hand.
Go ahead.
I think in this one, he's kind of referring to both. Like, I couldn't cheat and gain an unfair advantage, and I also can't cheat and avoid it by luck or by skill with Ithan stepping in. That's all. Continue.
I think the fairest definition is the first one. He can't actively do something to avoid the fate. Now, I want to be clear. I think there's a huge difference between here's what I'm allowed to do. Now, within these rules, I'm going to act creatively and do something. Let's go ahead and take your example of Orthos. He wasn't forbidden from using Orthos with the low gold examination. Go ahead and use it. That, to me, is not cheating. He followed the rules and he took advantage of a loophole or something that wasn't expressly forbidden. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. He was expressly talking, in that fight with Jailong, he was expressly talking about cheating, breaking the rules to achieve an end. Let's go level 2, level 3 on this. When you're teaching your kids, when you're teaching somebody in your profession, they're new, do you tell them, follow the rules or break the rules? Hey, you can go ahead and use insider trading to make billions and billions of dollars, or you tell them, hey, it's against the rules to do insider trading because that's cheating. Okay? You tell them to not cheat, and it's the lawbreakers who get punished, right? Lyndon is a cheater in the context of the sacred arts. Okay? Until he learns to stop cheating, I'm not saying bending the rules, cheating, he should get his comeuppance, at least in my opinion. All right, the floor is yours.
All right. So, in regards to the sacred arts and cheating, would you say that he has cheated to achieve the level he has achieved?
No, he took shortcuts to achieve the level he's achieved.
But shortcuts are fine, not
shortcuts
cheating.
Are fine. Okay, shortcuts are fine. What I'll say is shortcuts are fine, but a shortcut will end up coming to bite you in the butt like it did for him, where he lost his arm as a result because he didn't take the time to learn how to use the power that he had. In other words, he had all this power, but he was a relative child in the use of his power. Had he taken the shortcut and then had the time to act, and I'll excuse him this time, he didn't have the time to learn.
Right.
He had the time to learn the skill, like have the skill to match his ability, then I would have less of an issue with the shortcut. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. So,
Yeah.
Did you want to say something? I felt like I cut you off.
No, I think you hit it on the head. Is that in the context of sacred arts, I don't think he is a cheater. He's just taking shortcuts. In the context of whenever he's fighting somebody for his life or for even training, actually, I wouldn't even say training, mostly for his life. That's when he is a cheater. And I'll see that. I definitely think he's cheating. We start the first book off, he's fighting children, and he's using his technique, and he's over there just pushing them around and loving it because he's beating up like 7-year-old kids. He's not afraid to cheat with wasps and that as well. Things like that. He's going to cheat in a fight, but I don't think he really cheats as much in like sacred arts.
He cheated in his training. He did cheat in his training with the Black Flame Trials, to be clear. With the
I was going to say that. I was going to say, when in the Black Flame Trials, when he has to take the orb from point A to point B, and he attempts to just run through it and get it over with as fast as possible.
Yeah.
That is cheating. And it said it failed. His cheating attempt there did fail.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it cheating to run the trial twice in one day? Maybe, but they never really said it wasn't allowed. He just never had that opportunity before to do that or in the past.
Well, if you say that it's cheating to just run through the course because that's not the way it's designed, the course wasn't also designed to run multiple times in a day. So then that would be cheating.
It was also designed for 5 people with one person holding it. But aside from that, I felt like there was he tried to cheat there and he failed. And I feel like the world has a slightly different definition of cheating, at least when your life is on the line or your honor's on the line. Putting the remnant in the very first book in the corner of the fighting ring, was that cheating? I think it is cheating from our perspective. From his perspective and from everyone else's, he was like, yeah, technically they wouldn't like it, but they'd respect me because I managed to get the remnant, put it in the ground, and keep it hidden until I needed it the most. But does that still mean it's cheating? Yes, I think so.
Here, this kind of gets to, I want to kind of address Lady Sweden's question because.
Yes, of course. I'll
could you
move
go ahead and
this
ask
to
it
the front.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question because I think it gets to exactly what we're talking about here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, Eridandus, this question is for you. In a spoiler-free section, now that you're a few books into the series, what are your impressions and thoughts? Enjoying it, disenjoying it, good, bad? Let us know.
So this gets to what we were just talking about with cheating and the mention in Unsold, really about the concept of honor that his clan has versus the rest of the world, so to speak, right? So this author, in my opinion, is obviously talented, okay? He knows how to write. He knows how to say something cute or funny or whatever. So, I mean, and he has like the bones of a good story here in front of him. So I think he's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential. But, and Soul touched on this earlier, everything goes so fast. It feels like what I'm reading is an outline of a story and not a story. So there's times where I'm like, oh wow, like he slows down, he talks about something, I'm like, oh wow, that's really interesting. And then all of a sudden we speed up again and we're like, we're talking about the world, or we're talking about like, different universes. And I'm like, okay, slow down, give me a little bit of context, let us kind of absorb kind of like this world you're trying to create. Now, he can do that by either being more careful with his word choices and being denser, like using the same amount of space, but being more careful with his choices, or else he could write larger. Now, that's kind of like my opinion kind of in reading it. And I'm saying this really as a compliment to the writer because I think he does have a lot of potential and that he can write a stronger or a better book. And he may have other reasons for not doing it that way. I mean, look, some people want to write to make a living and some people want to write for art, and some people want to do both. So I'm not sure what his motivations are, but what I will say is that he's got the bones of a good story. He's obviously a very talented writer, and I think this story could be so much better if he would work, if he had the time or the willingness to work on it a little bit more. So that's my overall thoughts.
Great. Well, that's a great thought. I agree. I think part of it is just the style of novel that he's writing, the cultivation / progression. I think that style of story is much quicker paced than most of your regular fantasy series, and you learn more with less in this kind of a situation. And I think part of it is also being able to, for him at least, consistently write these books at a pace that helps him, either keeping him afloat or that he has time to spin out these ideas. That's kind of what happens. Would they be better if they delved into other things and spend a little more time? Probably, if we had more. I agree with what you're saying in the most part. There's a little part I maybe disagree with, but not enough to bring up or worry about. So
I definitely want to agree, and I definitely want more as well. He has actually mentioned a few times in his posts on his blog that it's a choice that he specifically made to keep these books under a certain word count. And I think he really wants us to feel that fast-paced vibe and not to feel like it's more of almost like an epic long story. I think that's just a choice that he made for his writing. And I disagree with that, but I'm still enjoying the story. And, I do wish it was longer, but that's what he consciously chose to do.
Okay. Well, Era, I think you've convinced me that Lyndon cheated at least a little bit, but I hope I convinced you a little bit that maybe he didn't cheat so much in the sacred arts, but more in a duel for his life.
I agree that he cheats in real life. You're right. He cheats in life.
Okay.
You're right. I agree with you. I agree with you, Cesky.
But does he cheat? Did he cheat to get to his power level?
You know what? Let's go ahead and read on and see whether the cheatingest cheater that ever cheated continues to cheat or not.
Okay.
My guess is going to be he does. So
I'm going to say that there's definitely going to be more to talk about, especially in the next book, which is also one of my favorites. And I think for certain reasons that Era does not like these other books, or at least as far as those themes, that's also going to come up next time. So all right. I'm interested for that.
I will drop it this time, but I think that if Lyndon had grown up anywhere else besides Sacred Valley, it would be different. But that's all. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right. I think we're pretty much to the end of everything that I wanted to talk about. Oh, I cannot forget our lovely Suriel, the space doctor. We don't get a ton, but we do a lot. I mean, a ton of space in the book is not devoted to her, but we do learn a lot. How'd you guys feel about the space cop, space police, space doctor? Excuse me, I can't get my words out correctly. How'd you feel about the space doctor sections? Soul, why don't you go first?
Okay. Because I read the other two books almost immediately afterwards, it's a little blurry, and I do not want to spoil. So, could you give us just a slight recap of what the surreal moments are with the space doctor this time?
Yes, I will do my best.
I appreciate it.
As I remember, in the last book, Suriel has found the containment unit that Osriel set up for the 16 next worlds that are going to be tainted by corruption. In this book, she is called back by Maciel. She expounds a little bit about Abaddon and all the people living there who just live there. She goes to meet Maciel the Hound, who is in charge of fate, and he says, there's been a disturbance in the Force, basically. You messed up. And she says, no, I didn't. I just changed one minor person's fate, And he's like, well, look at this. And, he shows her that something's going on. And we realize / learn that Ethan also has a space marble, which was hinted at before. And he is a direct descendant of Osriel, who has gone missing. And by those two meeting together, their fates have diverged from like a 0.001 divergence to a huge divergence. And in order to rectify that, Maciel activates basically the dread gods ahead of schedule. Now, did I miss anything important there, Era?
Just that Osriel has kind of hinted at he wants his descendants to form a group to kind of help him, with his duties to contain chaos.
Right.
Oh, that's right. And he wants them outside the bounds of Abaddon. He wants them independent, able to truly act and not be stuck in a bureaucracy.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's pretty nice that we're finally getting the more broad scopes of what's going on. I mean, before we really only knew Osriel was missing. That was mostly Suriel's on a murder mystery. She's trying to figure out who killed him, where he is, if he's killed. And now we have a little more information on as far as that's going. But we're also seeing some connections to Ethan and Lyndon and the crew that I think Era has a name for. Does he have a name for it?
Oh, yeah, the Cradle Robbers.
Okay, yes. Era, you mentioned this. They are officially named the Cradle Robbers because... Actually, we'll save that for predictions because I know you have predictions, so I'll leave that, and that'll be after this. I think it's exciting that we're finally seeing the meta story, or almost the frame story, I want to say, but it's not really a frame story, of what's going on, and we're seeing some more of that, so it's cool.
Era, how did you feel about Space Doctor Suriel?
Actually that part of the story is actually kind of, I thought it was interesting. I'm interested to see where it goes, and kind of, obviously there are factions within Abaddon. So I kind of like to learn a little bit more about the factions and what each faction represents. And I guess where Osriel is in the relative scheme, because it seems to be he's a central component, because his existence has kind of allowed for the flourishing of like all of these worlds to exist.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Osriel has enabled them to flourish beyond measure. I guess the way I see it is Maciel's kind of like the space cop. He's the one in charge of making sure everybody does what they do and that fate is what fate is supposed to be. Suriel fixes minor problems her weapon of choice, she constantly refers to it as a scalpel, or it changes form to a sword sometimes, but she's more about that healing kind of thing. I'm excited to learn more about it as well. So I'm right with you there. I like it. I wish there was more. I'm excited to learn more. Let's see. Predictions. Era, this is all on you. What's going to happen next? Ethan and Lyndon and them, are they going back to the Skysworn? Are they going to try and strike out on their own?
So the next book's called Ghostwater, right?
Yes.
So it involves something involving pure matter, I'm going to say, because pure matter kind of looks like pure water, right?
Okay.
At least to the visible eye. So there's going to be so it's going to involve Ethan and Lyndon specifically, since they both have pure Madra,
Okay.
some increase, it's going to be some significant increase in their power. That has to happen. That's her book thing. So I'm expecting that to happen. And we now know that there are a lot more power levels available. We know that it goes from Underlord to Overlord to Herald. Archlord.
Archlord.
Then Herald, and then Monarch. With Monarch being the highest that we know of to date. And then Sage is kind of a specialty. So I'm anticipating, whether it's in the next book or some book, that Lyndon's going to become a Sage. If I had to guess a Sage of what, I'm going to guess it's going to be a Sage of something involving pure Madra, or if we recall back in Unsouled, do you remember how his badge was like this void, like this ball of nothingness, right?
Right.
And then we see that repeated again in this book with the marble that Ethan has is being described as a void. So I think something involving nothingness, or like his feeling of inferiority, or like destroying things, is going to be like Lyndon's specialty, to kind of get to Soul's repeated point about Lyndon being an engine of destruction. So I don't know whether that's in Ghostwater, but that's kind of like my prediction. I don't know if it's going to come next book or not.
Yes, well, I am looking forward to the next book. It's an exciting one, and it's going to be good. I can't say much without spoiling it, because I don't remember it too well what happens exactly. So
we can spoil that there will be water involved. Yes,
I'll say this: I'll be interested in seeing more of Akura Mercy, because her personality seemed distinctly different than what was portrayed of the other Akuras. So, and it seems to me that at least their first names are some indication of their personality. Akura Mercy, Akura, I think Malice was the Monarch.
Yeah.
And
so
there's the Akura Justice.
So so I think that's some indication of the personality. So I'm hopeful that that's true, and that Mercy is the fourth member of the band of robbers that we have forming here.
I was just going to ask, do you feel like she's going to join the crew? And apparently you're looking forward to her joining. So
yeah, that'd be cool if she did.
Cool. Let's see. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about in this book specifically, or about the series overall?
No, Again, I'd recommend it for anybody who's young adult or starting off reading. This is a good series to kind of start your journey on reading fantasy novels in general.
Okay. Would you say that it could be a good palate cleanser if you enjoy it?
They're all the books that I've read so far are under 350 pages. You can read them pretty easy. You don't need a lot of effort you don't need to spend a lot of mental effort to read it.
Okay, perfect. I'd agree. So, well, I think that's going to wrap everything up for us today then, you guys. Thanks everybody for joining us, listening to us talk about Skysworn, the fourth book in the Cradle series. Thanks again to Era and Soulsmith for joining me, Cesky, as we talk about it. Thanks to the Legendarium podcast for letting us, use their name and broadcast to their fans and everybody else. We enjoy it, and I hope you guys do as well. Thanks.
And thanks to Soulution also.
Yes, and thanks to Soulution. I guess I should also say, if you want to join the Legendarium, they are on Reddit and Discord and Twitter. I know Craig's very active there. And you can look and find us and join us, and we'd love to have you.